Hello guys, welcome to my channel. It has been a minute. I've been gone for about a year and this video is going to be explaining where I've been, what happened, why I needed to take a break, and why I've been gone for the past year. This is definitely going to be the most serious video. There's definitely going to be lots of crying, which I'm already starting to. I'm gonna be talking about what happened. I've never really told the full story, only a few times, but like never this deeply. You know, I haven't seen a counselor yet, but you know, I kind of use YouTube and my social media as a form of therapy, so that's kind of what this is. As someone who struggles with talking about their feelings and emotions, this is gonna be a hard one for me, but I know that it can be very healing and it's important for me to let people know what I've been through. So let's just get into it. Today is the 1-year anniversary of my boyfriend Bradley passing away from a dirt bike accident. We dated for 4 years. You know, we lived together for 2 years in this very apartment. You know, he was my first love, my best friend, my soulmate, my world, my everything. And you know, we didn't have a picture perfect relationship, but we were inseparable. It's January 9th last year. I'm working a double at Holy Crust, and if you know me, then you know that Holy Crust was the most stressful job that I've ever had. You know, I was working long hours, I was working doubles all the time. It was just a really stressful job, and so I was just always tired, exhausted, in a bad mood. So I'd worked that entire weekend, and it's now Sunday. About 10 p.m., you know, I'm finishing up my double, closing up the restaurant, and I'm about ready to go home. So I'm texting him, asking him if he'll be home whenever I'm home, because we shared the fob to get into our apartment, and he had it that day. And so he tells me, he's like, you know what, no, I'm out with my friends, like I'm having a good time, I kind of want to stay out later. And then me, because I was tired, stressful, and just being a bitch that night, you know, I was just like fighting with him, like, no, like you need to come home, I'm tired, I just want to go home, like come drop off the fob and then you can go back out, whatever, like I don't care. And then he's like, no, why can't you just come get the fob from me? And I'm like, I'm just freaking tired, like I just want to be home. So at this point my coworkers are like, you know what, let's go get a drink after work. And then so since he wanted to stay out with his friends for a little bit longer, I was like, you know what, okay, fuck it. So an hour later, you know, I'm done, my social battery has completely run out, I'm ready to come home. So I start calling him, no answer. I'm texting him, no answer. And I'm on the way home already. I'm getting pissed off at this point because I'm like, why the fuck isn't he answering me? So I still don't hear from him. I figure out a way to get into the apartment, and then at this point I'm just waiting for him. So I'm like continuously keep calling him, there's no answer. It's about 1 a.m. and I'm like, okay, this is weird, but like he's probably just having fun. I don't know, maybe he's writing. So I'm just like, you know what, let me chill. I'm gonna go to sleep, and you know, he'll come home when he comes home. So I wake up at about like 4 a.m. He's still not there, and at this point I'm like a little bit worried, but he was such a night owl. Like he would literally, as I'm asleep, like he would literally be up playing video games, doing whatever. Like he was always up at ridiculous times in the morning. Like he would stay up literally all night. So I end up falling back asleep, and I wake up to go to work the next morning. I wake up at like 8 a.m. and he's still not there. I'm calling him, texting him, still no answer. And at this point I'm, one, still pissed, but two, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? You just feel something is wrong. I end up going to work, and I'm literally telling my coworker, like, he better be in jail or he better be in the hospital, because like, what the fuck is going on? And then I get a call and I answer it because I was like, maybe this is him calling from someone else's phone. And I answer, and the person on the phone is like, hi, this is detective blah 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 blah, do you know Bradley Schanz? Because I've been like freaking out, I like literally like took a breath of fresh air, like, because at this point I thought that he was in jail, even though like I know that's not how jail phone calls work. So she's asking me questions like, what's your relation to Bradley? Do you guys live together? Are you married? She still didn't say anything at this point, and I'm wondering why is she asking me all these questions? And so I was just like, I stopped answering the questions, and I was like, what is this regarding? And then that's when she got, and that's when she said that Bradley was involved in an accident last night and he didn't make. After she said that, I literally just collapsed to the floor. I'm screaming, I'm crying. I'm literally in the middle of my job, just outside screaming and crying. And then I just hung up on her. You know, after that first initial reaction, I was like, fuck, now I have to call his mom. So I call her, I tell her, and you know, she's besides herself. You know, she's screaming, she's crying. You know, having to tell a mother that her son has died is just something that I will never get over. I still hear her screams, like it's something that I will never forget. And so his mom lives in Abilene, which is like 4 hours away from Dallas. So you know, she immediately jumps in the car, and then, you know, I was telling her, I was like, I can't call his dad. He was such a daddy's boy, like, and me and him basically lived with his dad for a year when we first started dating. So I just knew like his mom already was super painful, and I just knew I couldn't call his dad. So she called his dad. So at this point, I grab all my stuff from my job, I leave. I come home, you know, I'm calling my mom, my dad, my best friend, telling them what happened. And then I call the detective lady back, and you know, she basically was like, since you guys weren't legally married, you're not the next of kin, I can't tell you any information. So I gave her his mom's phone number so that she could figure out the next steps or any information and things like that. So eventually when she gets here, she comes and picks me up with his grandma, and then I guess we went to a morgue. I don't exactly know what kind of place it was, a morgue or like somewhere where they do autopsies. My dad met up with us there, but the people there were saying that he wasn't there and that he was still at the hospital, and they basically just said to wait until he gets to the funeral home. So that's what we did. It is now a few days later, January 14th, and he's finally at the funeral home, and today is the day that we're going to see him for the first time. So I'm walking with his mom in the chapel. We're literally holding hands. And then I look up and I see him, and again, I just collapse on the floor. You know, there's a stage of grief where, you know, they say that you kind of don't think it's real and it's not your loved one. And that's kind of what I was going through. You know, I was like, there's just no way, it's not him. And so I look up, and now it's really hitting me because it is him. You know, I've never seen a dead body, and the first one I do see is the love of my life, and I still have nightmares about it today. It's horrifying. Sometimes I wish I didn't see him like that, but at the same time it's like I couldn't accept it until I saw it with my own eyes. And this might be a little graphic, but if you've never seen an open casket, it's like seeing the person you love, but a cold alien doll version of them. You know, it looks like them, but it does not. It's it's horrifying. After that, you know, we're looking at him, and then I see on the top of his head, like right here, just like a big scrape with like blood all over it. And I'm like, you know, that must have been where he fell and hit his head, because at this point I didn't know what happened to him. I just knew he was in an accident. They couldn't tell us really anything else other than that. And so I see this giant scrape on his head, and I'm like, that obviously was it. So after that, we started the funeral arrangements. You know, I pick out the urn, and then you know, I tell him that he wanted to be cremated and put next to his grandpa, who had passed away a year or two before. It was actually literally by the grace of God that the only open, I forget what you call it, but the places that you put the urn in, the only free ones was the one right below his grandpa. So I was super happy about that he would be with his grandpa. So now it's January 17th. And it is the day of the funeral. We had it at the church that he was baptized at. It was an open casket again. And this time I look at him, and now you can see that he's just decomposing, and it's even worse than the first time. Like, but I just like, I had to stop thinking like that and just realize and really take in that this was going to be the last time that I ever saw him. So it was a really beautiful service. A lot of his friends came out, his biker boys came. You know, they were riding around on their dirt bikes, they were popping wheelies, they're revving their engines, which sounds very unconventional for a funeral, but if you knew Bradley, like, that's what he would have wanted. He would have loved it. So that made me really happy. So that's kind of what happened on my side. Now I'm going to tell what I know of what happened on his side. So the August before he passed away, he had reconnected with one of his military friends, and that military friend was into dirt bikes, and so he told him to pull up to the lot, and the lot is basically where a lot of guys in Dallas go to like practice stunts, and they'll like ride around and stuff. And so he took Bradley there with him, and then Bradley obviously instantly fell in love. You know, he was so excited. He rode dirt bikes as a kid, and like he's all into adrenaline and all of that stuff. So of course he became obsessed, and at the end of August he got a dirt bike and rode that thing every single day up until the day he died. You know, he even taught me how to ride it. We would be at the lot multiple times a week, just hanging out, riding, things like that. And his number one goal was to be able to pop a wheelie. Like, that was his goal. He wanted to do it. He wanted to learn. And when Bradley has a goal, he will not stop until he reaches it, no matter what. And you know, dirt bikes are very dangerous, and I was definitely naive about that, especially the way that the biker boys ride. You know, they do stunts, they're popping wheelies, they're standing up on the bike going 40, 50 plus miles an hour, they're kicking their legs up, they're if you've seen videos of it, you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy shit, to be honest. You know, he was always one to push his limits. You know, literally he always had road rash on his body from the day he got his dirt bike to the day he died. Like, he was always falling, things like that. He was good at riding, but you know, he was still a beginner. You know, you're gonna fall. But I have never seen him happier in my life. That day, he was at the lot, he was riding with his buddies and things like that. And then they told me that he left around 6 p.m. and he stored his dirt bike at a storage facility. And so He went back to the storage facility and was just hanging. He was friends with the manager there, so he ended up just staying and hanging out with him. You know, they're drinking, they're eating, just hanging out. You know, once I said that I was gonna have a drink with my coworkers, he was kind of like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna go on one last ride before I come home. So if you live in Dallas, he was riding down Greenville. And then, according to the police report, he ended up just swerving into the curb, falling off, hitting his head. But I mean, I know my boyfriend, and I know he was obviously intoxicated. He was probably trying to pop a wheelie, ended up swerving into the curb, fell, hit his head, and then landed in the grass next to the street. So eventually a car sees the bike in the middle of the road. They see him laying down in the grass, and they call the ambulance. The ambulance shows up. They take him to the hospital, and they pronounced him dead at 11:50 p.m. You know, it's such a weird connection me and him had. Like he passed away at the hospital that I was born at. Like, it's such a weird coincidence. And so he did wear a helmet. He always wore a helmet, but it wasn't like a full face, the one that goes completely around. It was just like the one that goes on top. If I was more strict about like, you need to wear your full face helmet, because he had one, he just didn't wear it. You know, I believe maybe he could have lived. You know, I try to not think of things that way because it doesn't change anything. And you know, it'll just take you to a really dark place if you do think like that. Something I will never forgive myself for is the fact that, like, if I wasn't being a bitch and like, come the fuck home right now, you know, like, if I had literally been just like, hey baby, I'm really tired from work, I just want to hang out with you at home, like, I know he would have just put his bike up and came home. You know, instead I was being a bitch, and he was like, you know what, fucking, I'm gonna go on one last ride. It's like, I know it's not my fault, but I just can't help but think that I could have prevented it. You know, whether it was telling him to wear his full face helmet or just the things I said that night. So that is something that I really struggle with, because it's really hard not to blame yourself. You know, it's so cliche to say, like, you know, live every day like it's your last, but it's true. You never know what could happen. And one thing that I will always keep with me that he taught is just to live freely and to cherish your moments and literally live as if tomorrow isn't going to happen. That's how he lived. And you know, before, it used to piss me off. Like, I would be like, how are you so carefree and such a free spirit? And I'm over here like worrying about literally every little thing. He just lived his life, and he was always in his own world, and that is something that I will keep with me. All in all, like, I never in a million years thought that I would have to plan the funeral of the love of my life. You know, I picked out an urn before he picked out a ring. I planned his funeral before I planned our wedding. You know, like, I was fully planning on marrying this man, and I swear this, I'm not even making this up. The day before he died, he literally randomly just turns over in the bed and he looks at me and he's like, you know what? This is the year I'm gonna propose to you. A year later, where am I? You know, I still every day am trying to deal with the grief of him passing away, but it's also grieving your old life. It's grieving the life you thought you would have had with this person. And so it's a lot more than just dealing with him passing away. You know, my life is completely different now as it was 2-3 years ago, and it will look nothing like I had imagined 4 or 5 years from now. you know, a piece of my heart will always be missing. You know, I'm shattered, I'm broken, I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm scared. And it's like, if you know me in person, you know, you probably think, you know what, she's doing okay. She's handled it very well. But what people don't realize is that I'm one, very good at hiding it, and two, like, there's still a lot of things that I deal with on my own. You know, I have bad social anxiety when I'm alone. I don't go into stores anymore. Like, my favorite thing ever is grocery shopping, and like bitches love Target, and I don't go into those stores anymore. I have panic attacks. I still cry almost every day. You know, literally one time, like my neighbor had called the police to do a wellness check on me because they thought I was like getting murdered or something in my apartment. You know, I've lost a lot of weight. I don't have much of an appetite. Because I'm depressed, I don't eat a lot. You know, it's hard for me to, one, go to the store to get food, and not only that, but to actually cook it is almost impossible. And then because of my social anxiety, like even going through a drive-through, like even that small minimal contact with a person is difficult for me. You know, I still have trouble sleeping. You know, still in the middle of the night, half asleep, will move my leg looking for him, and you know, when I don't feel it there, I'll wake up and be scared and have to remind myself that he's not there. And the worst part of it, I definitely have considered unaliving myself, but the thing that stops me is just, I would never want to put anyone in the position to feel what I feel. In the grand scheme of things, you know, I've been pushing on. You know, people say that you need to move on with your life, but there is no moving on. You just have to learn how to live without this person. My life will never be the same. I will never be the same. You know, my world is a little less bright, but I promise to continue working on myself and this journey that I'm on. So that is the story. I can't promise that I'm gonna be back, you know, 100% with videos again, but I just knew that I couldn't come back without explaining what happened. So that is it for this video. I hope to see you guys soon. Bye.